The Fed unexpectedly tapers off the Business Insider. The December FOMC decision is out. The Fed will taper asset purchases to a monthly rate of 75 billion from the current 85 billion pace. Half the reduction is in treasury purchases and half the reduction is in purchases of MBS. However, the FOMC did not modify its forward guidance, leaving the unemployment rate threshold for the first rate hike at 6.5%. Okay. So they're looking at the phony baloney unemployment numbers and they're waiting for it to hit 6.5%. If you look at better government statistics, look at U6. That unemployment rate is around 13%. They're never going to use those metrics to determine what the Fed funds rate is. They're just going to go out with this phony baloney unemployment number, which is, I think, close to 7%. But why would the Fed unexpectedly taper according to the Business Insider? Well, there are a few scenarios. One, Bernanke is on his way out, and he's passing the baton to Yellen. And usually, for the last two stock market bubbles, or usually the two market cycles, you had the tech bubble and then you had the real estate bubble, you had a toppy market towards the end of the presidential election. Whether there's a conspiracy theory or not behind it, you could decide for yourself. But you've seen the market crash right around that time. And Greenspan handed the real estate bubble to Bernanke. And then Bernanke, what is he going to hand off Yellen? Is it going to be a student loan bubble? Is it going to be a bond bubble? Is it going to be the Obama bubble, as I've stated before? Whatever bubble there is, it just looks like stuff is going to go down. The market has gone up over 140-some%. It's based on all this easy and cheap money going to the market, based on all these PE ratios. Some of them are just ridiculous, and I'll get into that another day. And we should look at the fact that if history does repeat itself, like with the two bubbles, then 2015, 2016, the market probably is going to top off. Now, I want to look at this one book by John Taylor. It's Getting Off Track. It was written, I believe, in 2009. And let's just read an excerpt from the beginning of the book and how it ties into monetary policy and what we could look at it today. John Taylor, by the way, is a professor at Stanford University. Let's look at what he says. Loose-fitting monetary policy. Figure 1 was published in The Economist magazine in October 2007 as a simple way to illustrate the story of monetary excesses. The figure is based on a paper that I presented at the annual Jackson Hole conference, at which central bankers from around the world assembled in August 2007. It examines Federal Reserve policy decisions in terms of the federal funds rate from 2000 to 2006. The line that dips down to 1% in 2003 stays there until 2004 and then rises steadily until 2006, shows the actual interest rate decisions of the Federal Reserve. The other line shows that the interest rate would have been had the Fed followed the type of policy that it followed fairly regularly during the previous 20-year period of good economic performance. The Economist labels the line the Taylor rule because it is a smoothed version of an interest rate one gets by plugging actual inflation and GDP into the policy rule that I proposed in 1992. And then he goes on and on and on. And then let's start from here again. The most important part is that this line shows what interest rate would have been had the Fed followed the kind of policy that had worked well during the period of economic stability called the Great Moderation, which began in the early 1980s. Figure 1 shows the actual interest rate decision fell well below what historical experience would suggest policy should be. It thus provides an empirical measure that monetary policy was too easy during the period, or too loose-fitting, as the Economist puts it. The deviation of monetary policy from the Taylor rule was unusually large. No greater or more persistent deviation of actual Fed policy had been seen since the turbulent days of the 1970s. This is clear evidence of monetary excesses during the period leading up to the housing boom. So let's just look at this. This is John Taylor's Taylor rule measured upon what the Federal Reserve did. So you could see the Taylor rule here and actual. This was during Bernanke's reign, by the way. Okay? And if you remember, if you keep rates too low for too long, you're going to create essentially an asset bubble. And that's what happened with the real estate bubble. This is what Schiff was warning about. This is where he understood what was going on. Not that the Taylor rule over here is perfect, but what it shows is, okay, if you're going to look at the interest rate set by the Fed and try to compare it to what it should be, or compare it to a Taylor rule, right? Interest rates too low for too long, create an asset bubble. And now let's look at what's going on with the Fed. So what does this mean when it comes to the Fed? Why would they unexpectedly taper? There are a few things going on in my mind. Once again, this is not investment advice. These are just my own thoughts and opinions, and I'm just giving them out here. And number one thought is that you may see Janet Yellen, she may reverse this taper. Because she number one is a super central planner or super Keynesian. And what she wants to do is she probably wants to keep interest rates really easy. And if you look at someone who may think like her, who's a monetarist, it's Charlie Evans at the University of Chicago. And he suggested they should print roughly $125 billion a month, which sounds insane. But someone who thinks a lot like Yellen is Charlie Evans. So you may just see this as a head fake. They may be in the works that, yeah, we're going to reverse this taper. You have to remember that next year, Obamacare is going to take into fruition, and Obamacare is a disaster. That's one headwind for the economy next year. Secondly, why would Bernanke taper? Well, go back to what I showed you with the interest rates when he was in power, or actually when Greenspan was in power, and then Bernanke took over. Well, they kept rates too low for too long, and as a result, the whole system popped. Well, they're keeping rates again too low for too long. And what's going to happen? In my opinion, something is going to pop. Most likely at the election time. Could I be wrong? Yes. That's why I say these are my own thoughts, and that's why I always tell you, if you're going to make any investment decision, do your own due diligence and homework, or talk to a financial advisor. But if you look at history, it just seems that we are probably going to end up like 2007, 2008, and most likely a deflationary head fake. And another thing to note, you have to look at the fact that Ben Bernanke, he did not like the situation he probably was in 2007, 2008. And as a result, he may have thought to himself, okay, there's an asset bubble brewing. Maybe what I should do is try to start to take the punch bowl away slowly but steadily. Even though the asset bubble is going to come, I could defend myself saying that, hey, I tried to do something about that. Those are other things going on in my mind. I really don't know what's going on in his mind, but this is going to be his last time as Fed chair. So that's something to note, guys. Anyways, what do you guys think? Why did the Fed taper? Are they going to reverse the taper? Leave me your thoughts, and I'll talk to you another time.